Hi, I'm Greg Hunter. This is the weekly news wrap up, the WNW 219 for Friday, December 11th, 2015. Russia continues to attack ISIS and also come up with some pretty incendiary rhetoric. Vladimir Putin said that he knew that of his new missiles fired from submarines off the Syrian coast in the Mediterranean, he said that they were, quote, highly effective precision weapons that can be equipped either with conventional or special nuclear warheads. Putin added, I hope we'll never need it. Is he serious? Is he just pulling the West chain? Is he? Do you really think he's going to use nuclear warheads? Maybe. Is he just doing this as a psyop against the West to back people off? I don't know. One thing's for sure, it's not a big stretch to think that the next global war will involve nuclear weapons. And that next global war looks like it's getting started in the Middle East. And so, I think it's a not so veiled threat that, hey, folks, if this gets bad enough, nukes are, a possibility. And when he says that they are special nuclear warheads, is he talking about tactical nukes? Is he talking about nukes that have, even more explosive power than ever? We can wipe out, many square miles, or if he's just talking about wiping out a bunker. I don't know. But nuclear warheads and nuclear weapons will no doubt be used in the next war. And my bet, it'll probably start in the Middle East. And that's what I was talking about with this Iran deal. What happened? Iran sent troops, to Syria. They have their troops there. U.S., Germany has sent stuff in. The U.S. is now sending more attack helicopters supposedly in. They have 3,500 boots on the ground after the president promised no boots on the ground. And now there is talk in Congress, a new bipartisan legislation, which will authorize the use of military force in Iraq and Syria against ISIS. So everything is heating up in the Middle East. None of it is cooling down. Add that. Meanwhile, add that to this. Meanwhile, the fresh off shooting down a Russian fighter jet, NATO member Turkey has sent troops into Iraq. Now, Iraq is upset. The NATO country, Turkey says, oh, no, we were called in to help them. And Iraq says, oh, no, you weren't. And they're at the UN trying to get these troops removed. On top of that, the U.S. is helping out the Kurds, which are the arch enemy of Turkey. Turkey has been bombing the Kurds, and they've been at some sort of a state of war for years. And we're helping the Kurds, who are apparently the only real active force on the ground, trying to stop ISIS. I mean, Turkey is actually funding and giving financial help to ISIS by buying their oil and also sending weapons in there. So what a mess. I talked to coming up this Sunday. I have a new guest. It's a former CIA intelligence officer who is a Russian speaker who is stationed all around the stands and all around Russia. His last appointment was in Moldavia. He knows about Russia. He knows about Turkey, the Middle East, and he'll give us his take about what's going on. He's coming up Sunday in an early Sunday release. Next up, this kind of says it all here. It's USA Today. Killer couple were radicalized years ago. This according to James Comey, FBI director who testified on Capitol Hill this past week. Now, there's a lot of people out there, and the media has been bombarding us with this idea that talking about a real problem is anti-Muslim bigotry. This is bigotry. Well, listen, it's not bigotry if it's real. The FBI director testified on Capitol Hill, Comey, that he had 900 active investigations into ISIS sympathizers. 900 across America. That's a real problem. In 2009, the FBI estimated of the 2,000 mosques in America, about 10% were preaching violent jihad. This is in 2009. This is the FBI. That 10% of the mosques, they thought that 200 mosques preaching jihad. Another study in 2011 where they randomly sampled 100 mosques and found out that 80 of them were preaching or handing out materials or talking about violent jihad against apostates, Muslims who aren't radical enough, Christians and Jews. This is not bigotry if it's being fermented out of mosques and right from the pages of the Quran. This is a fact. This is not me being Islamophobic because a phobia is an unfounded fear. No, I really do fear Islamic terrorists, especially after they just recently killed 14 and wounded 22. This was a man and a wife. You know, the Charlie Hebdo attacks also had a man and a wife involved. So this idea that women can't hold on to an AR-15 and murder people is pretty absurd. And then you have people like J.K. Rowling quoted this week saying that, Donald Trump, who says, we ought to have a moratorium, a temporary stay on Muslims coming into the country. Not Muslims who are citizens, Muslims who need a visa. I say at the very least we ought to be really looking at the visa probability. But he came out and said we ought to have a moratorium. And what happened to Trump's ratings? He was attacked viciously by the media. What happened to his ratings? They went up. This is America saying, hey, enough. America is calling BS on the BS. And so people are getting behind Trump. It's kind of common sense when there's a religion that is out there, that is that certain parts of it, and I don't know what it is, 1%, 5%, 10%, I don't know. But there's a pretty significant percentage, enough to do some serious damage. I mean, 2 people killed 14 and wounded 22 just last week. And then you have people like J.K. Rowling, the person that invented her little fantasy world with Harry Potter, saying that Donald Trump is worse than this stupid character, this villain, Voldemort. Oh, Donald Trump's worse than Voldemort? Really? Are the 2 murderers who murdered 14 and wounded 22, aren't they worse than Donald Trump? How about the crazy Islamic terrorist that murdered 130 and killed hundreds and wounded hundreds more in Paris? Aren't they worse than Voldemort? I mean, J.K. Rowling has this little fantasy world that she created with Harry Potter, and apparently she still lives there. Russell Simmons, a Def Comedy Jam dude, writes an open letter to Trump. What you're doing is terrible. Really terrible? We have 900 active investigations, according to the FBI, for Islamic terrorism across America. And somehow that Trump is being painted as some Islamophobe because of bona fide, documented Islamic terrorism. And I see a lot of folks, a lot of Muslims talking about how they're being inconvenienced and there's anti-Muslim bigotry and some violence, and hey, how about the people that were killed by Muslim terrorists? Isn't that a pretty bad thing? How about the 22 that were just recently injured? How about that? Well, here's what I look at the media all the time. And I study the media, and I see a lot of this fresh, Russell Simmons telling, Trump to change course. Really, to go back to what? To change course back to the socialism, communism, fairy tale land of incompetence that the Obama administration is putting on us, and the lies and disasters of Obamacare. Trump needs to change course back to that. I don't think that's going to happen. And it's not Islamophobia to talk about a real problem. What I don't hear Muslims doing, the overall Muslim community is getting together and saying, hey, we have a problem. This isn't just a PR problem. It's a real violent problem. How do we handle this? What do we do to go after this? How do we stop this from going on in our mosques? How do we stop the radicalization that's coming right out of the teachers who are supposed to be teaching the religion of peace, which that's really a big fat lie. It's a religion of submission. But not all Muslims are bad. I would say the overwhelming majority are not bad, but there is a component of them that certainly are, and it's not a phobia, not my imagination, and it is a real problem. And it's not getting real attention in the Muslim community. What I'm hearing from the Muslim community is where we're being discriminated against. And what we ought to be hearing is, hey, we need to get together and talk with our leaders and find out why this is going on and stop it. And I don't hear that happening at all in the mainstream press. I see people being villainized because they're pointing out an obvious problem. Villainized. Well, the economic news continues to come in, and it's nearly bad week after week. And instead of me doing these detailed things with the economic news, I'm just going to give you the bullet points that I find week after week. Chain store sales collapse following already disappointing Black Friday. What did Peter Schiff say here? It's going to be a horrible Christmas. Peter Schiff was interviewed, said that. Next up, S&P 500 opens in the red for 2015 as the energy crash continues. Charles Nenner said that we'd have a little run up in stocks, and then according to him, it's down from here, folks. So he is a renowned analyst, Charles Nenner, who I hope to have on again soon. Brazil faces disastrous downgrade debacle of its debt. How hard does it get to borrow money, and how much do you have to pay to borrow it when your debt gets downgraded? And here we are, the Federal Reserve, who says, "Oh, hey, wow, jobless rate just a few weeks ago is down to 5%." But here's the latest new initial jobless claims suddenly surged to 5-month highs. Continuing claims spike. So initial jobless claims suddenly spiked to a 5-month high, and I just don't know how the Fed is going to justify raising rates, but a lot of my guests say they have to do it. David Stockman says they have to do it sooner than later. Catherine Austin Fitts is now raising the chance up to, 60, 80% that they'll raise rates an eighth, a quarter, or something. Could this blow the market out? Is it already priced in? I don't know, but it's not just about a quarter of a point. It's really about normalizing rates. It's crazy getting money for houses at 3.8%, 30-year money for a mortgage at 3.8%. That is not the true cost of money. The banks continue to borrow money at near 0%. Meanwhile, this hasn't helped Main Street at all, but it sure has helped Wall Street, and I don't know what the fallout will be, but we'll find out next week. We will find out next week. And if they don't raise rates, I think they're in a catch-22. If they raise rates, well, I think the market's going to tank. If they don't raise rates, I think everybody says, market, oh my goodness, everything is a lot worse than what the Fed ever imagined, and none of this stuff is working. So we shall see. Finally, USA Today goes out of its way to put people up to trash Trump. And here's John Kasich, nice guy, governor of a big state, Ohio, and he's on how to defeat Trump and ISIL, it's ISIS, how to defeat ISIL and Trump. This is the Islamic State. This is the Islamic State of Iraq and Levant, but it's really ISIS. And they just go out of their way to try to trash Trump. And here we have, they'll put a Republican on, anybody they can. And you know what makes me laugh about this? All the mainstream Republicans, the neocons, the mainstream Republicans just dogged Trump for saying this. Maybe we ought to take a break, find out where we are, which I think it's common sense. Maybe we should just take a break, find out where we are with this Islamic terrorism. After all, the female terrorist that helped murder 14 people just came in about a year ago on a visa. And so they just tried to trash him, and his poll numbers just keep getting stronger and more solid. And this time they went up. They went up in South Carolina. They went up nationally. He's looking like he's going to be the nominee if they don't scuttlebutt this. The Republicans are freaking out, which I think it's just the old guard Republicans who, hey, it's their turn to rip us off, America. And, listen, if that's the case, if he's being fought by both the left and the right, the status quo, I kind of like that. I'm not saying vote for Trump, but it says something, doesn't it? Somebody who can self-fund that they can't control, they're freaking out over, and is getting stronger and stronger with the stuff he says. I don't know. One thing's for sure, economically, we're headed in the wrong direction. That's the way I see it. I'm Greg Hunter. Thank you for supporting USAWatchdog.com with your comments and donations. Remember, fear not. Prepare yourself physically, mentally, and above all, spiritually. Fear not. God the Father is in charge.